I'm a pretty good-sized guy, but one thing that wasn't was my first son. And he was a preemie, and I'm like all dads. I wanted my kids to play sports, and there's no greater feeling that when you're looking at a ball field and it's your daughter or son out there, and you're like, that's my boy, that's my girl, right? And so I wanted my kids to play sports, and my kid was a preemie, and he was the smallest kid all the way through school. And so, not being that bright, I thought, if I put him in hockey, he'll look taller on skates. So I'm picking him up at the arena, and the coach calls me over, and he says, Mr. Steele, can I talk to you? And I went, yeah. He says, I've been coaching a lot of years, and your kid is the smallest kid I've ever coached. And I went, yeah, I've heard that a lot. He said, but I want to tell you something. Your kid's the toughest kid I've ever coached. I went, what? He said, I have never seen a kid that has no fear of checking anybody. Now, checking is when you just skate into their legs and you try to knock them over. He says, your son has no fear. My chest sticks out, my shoulders go back, and I'm so proud of my boy. And I'm walking out of the arena with my son, and I went, hey, son, did you hear what the coach said? You're not afraid to check anybody. You're tough. And my son says, nothing. Nothing. I elbowed him again. I went, Adam, did you hear what the coach said? You skate into anybody's legs. You don't care how big they are. And finally, my son looks up at me and he goes, Dad, I don't know how to stop on skates. I was that close. I don't even know why I got excited. I got two boys, and my sons couldn't catch athlete's foot if they tried. My wife and I would go watch them play Little League Baseball, and we would sit in the car and watch them with binoculars because we didn't want the other parents to know they were our kids. Oh, did I hear some walls? Come on. Did I hear some walls? There's always somebody in the crowd that goes, oh, you shouldn't talk about your kids that way. Let me tell you something. That's why we got weak kids today. We're always making excuses for them. And thank you, sir. Thank you. We're always making excuses for kids. And you can tell parents who make excuses for their kids. They say silly stuff like this. You ever heard a guy say this? My son Johnny, he's really smart, unless he's taken a test. That's like me going, guys, I'm really fast unless I'm in a race. You ever heard this one? I know you've heard this one. My daughter Susie is quite attractive. She just doesn't take a good picture. I see the head shaking, yeah? You look at the picture, look at Susie. You look at the picture, look at Susie. They're the same. And a picture says 1,000 words, and it's saying over and over again, Susie looks like Dad. You know what I mean? That's Susie's problem. So, back to my kids. I wanted to be honest with my kids, and I knew they had to know. They're sitting a bench, they're not very good. And so I said to them, why? Why are you playing sports? And here's their answer. They said, Dad, we just want a chance to win a trophy like every other kid. Now, back then, there was no such thing as participation trophies. And so I did my research and found out that you can go to a trophy shop and get a trophy made of anything. And so I sat down with my kids and I said, boys, if you can earn trophies in other areas of your life, will you stop playing sports? And they're like, yeah, Dad. We just want a chance to earn a trophy. Now, let me tell you something. Sometimes in this part of the show, I do get a little emotional because it brings back such good memories to me. But I remember overhearing my boys be in their bedroom with their friends, and one of my sons would climb up and get a trophy off the shelf. And he would be bragging to his friends, and he said, I got this trophy as my dad's best foot massager. And the other son, not wanting to be outdone, he'd grab a trophy down. He'd say, I got this trophy as my dad's best toenail clipper. Excuse me just a minute. Oh. You can use trophies in other areas of life. I used to give my kids a trophy if they would intentionally miss the very first word of every spelling bee so I could go home early.